Well, on the 23rd of September 2022, the Supreme Court granted NHT's claim for a declaration that the security guards engaged by Marksman Limited to provide security services to third parties are in fact employees, and that Marksman Limited should begin paying employers' contributions to the National Housing Trust on their behalf. What does this judgment mean for security guards everywhere? And what happened since this ruling that shook the security industry? Samantha Grant is attorney at law and associate at DunnCox, was junior counsel on this case, and she is here to answer some frequently asked questions about the impact of this important judgment. Samantha, thank you so much for joining us on the legal landscape.
Thank you, Deon. Good evening, and good evening to your listeners.
Good evening again. Happy International Women's Day to you as we start. Samantha, looking at this case which we just mentioned, why was it so important?
Well, Deon, for a bit of background to show why this case is a landmark decision. From as early as 1985, the security guard industry generally took the view that security guards are independent contractors or self-employed, and they operated accordingly for decades up to this case. This means that the guards engaged by Marksman and other companies were not treated as employees, and as such they were not protected by certain laws and would not be entitled to benefits such as vacation or sick leave. At least that's what their contracts said. But the question is, do their contracts actually reflect the reality? That is what the Honorable Mr. Justice Debat finally settled in detail in this judgment for the very first time. The judge ruled that security guards are employees and not independent contractors, which has far-reaching consequences for the NHT and throughout corporate Jamaica.
So what does this have to do with the NHT as well?
Well, companies are required to make contributions to the NHT for their employees if they are employees under the NHT Act. But because the companies treated security guards as independent contractors, they did not pay over the 3% employer contribution to the NHT for years. So the NHT brought this action against Marksman to finally settle the legal status of the security guards and to seek over $477 million in unpaid employers' contributions.
Okay. You're listening to Samantha Grant, attorney at law and associate at DunnCox. How can a security guard, Samantha, know whether he or she is an employee or an independent contractor?
Well, His Lordship took a very big step in answering this question. The judgment makes it clear that it is not only what is written in your contract. Security guards are employees if they are part of the organization, as opposed to independent contractors who are in business of their own but gives a service to that organization. So the questions are whether the guard provides their own skill to perform a service in exchange for wages. 2, whether the guard agreed that the employer controls how the guards perform that service. And 3, whether the provisions of the contract are consistent with an employment contract. So those are the questions. So guards should now be reviewing their contractual relationships to see if they are wrongfully being treated as independent contractors when they are really employees. There are quite a few court matters that awaited the outcome of this case because of this very question.
So are there industry changes that have resulted from this judgment?
Yes. I must commend the government for responding so quickly to this judgment. To encourage adherence to the finding in the NHT and Marksman case, the Honorable Nigel Clark announced that security companies must adapt to do business with the government. Guards must be engaged as employees or the government will not utilize the services of that company, or the government will terminate existing contracts as of next month, April 1, 2023. He also announced a task force to review and amend hundreds of contracts currently between the government and security companies. And the opposition has called for licenses issued by the private security authority to be suspended for non-compliant companies. So we see the executive arm of the government taking steps or calling for steps to be taken to respond in a practical way to this decision by the Supreme Court.
Samantha, what should security guards do during this transition in the industry?
Well, guards should consult an attorney to ensure that they are receiving all the benefits to which they are entitled, or to determine whether they are entitled to past benefits that they did not receive. This caution is, however, doubled down for security companies who may be cut off from contracts in the public sector or possibly lose their license if they don't make significant changes immediately. I would encourage all companies and individuals affected by this case to consult an attorney sooner rather than later, especially security guards who have been working in the industry for many years under the wrong designation. They would not want the court to minimize or refuse their claims for having slept on their rights. These are the things that your attorney can advise you on in detail.
Samantha Grant giving us the details on legal landscape for season 6, episode 5, NHT versus Marksman case, and sharing with us what that means for security guards. Thank you so much for joining. I didn't ask you today though, did you know tidbits, hashtag did you know tidbits for us today?
Well, did you know, even if you signed a contract that says you are not an employee, that is not the be-all and end all. You should look at the contents of your contract and the surrounding reality of the work reality of your work life. And in doing so, you may or may not be shortchanged in your capacity as it is.
So in other words, look at the dots and the T's, I guess is how I would say it, break it down in layman terms. I want to thank you so very much for joining us today. Samantha Grant, attorney at law and associate at DunnCox, attorneys at law for legal landscape today. I'm sure you have a lot of persons buzzing and talking now. And as you return to the office, happy Women's Day to you and all of the team.
Thank you, Deon, and the same to you and the team.
Thank you.